Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to Truckerman Reads. The other comics that I picked up this week, there were 6 in total. One of them was Mind Your Business by Richard Meyer from Splateau Comics. I'm going to hold off on reviewing that until LAX shows up later this month. But I got a lot of laughs out of it. It was a good short little installment in the Theosophy series. And then I had Transformers number 26 from the Energon universe. I'm trying to decide how to describe the way that I feel about these. Sorry, I'm trying something new with the microphone here. And to be fair, I'm biased towards Transformers, but I feel like there's a lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back with this series, where an issue will happen and there will be a fight somewhere and somebody will get their bell rung and a building will get knocked over and then they retreat and they'll do it again next week. And I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of what the original cartoon was. And the original cartoon just existed to sell toys. You know, one of the opportunities afforded by the medium of comics is that you get to tell a better developed and more protracted story that isn't so repetitively episodic. In this one, you get more of that, where there's a fight and there's a setback and there are gains and there are losses, but there was still an in-world intriguing development. Basically, some Decepticons are switching sides, others are doubling and tripling down. All of that is fine. There was a big story beat at the end of issue 25 I didn't mention last month, where the Autobots are divided between Earth and Cybertron, and Elita 1, one of the female Transformers, she blames Optimus for something that goes wrong, and the cliffhanger ending is like, and now Optimus Prime is our enemy. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's another story beat that I've seen happen in other shows and books and stuff over the years, where it's just like, oh, and now the good guys are going to fight each other. It's often hastily constructed. And this felt like one of those beats, especially since I know that the writer just switched, because for 2 years it was Daniel Warren Johnson. I believe it was Daniel Warren Johnson. So, I'm still enjoying it. Your mileage may vary, but I'm also learning to be a little bit more patient with the issue-by-issue format, because most of my reading of comics over my lifetime has been through trade paperbacks. There's still an amount of grace that I'm learning to have with issues instead of entire volumes. Hey, learn that you're reading a chapter and not a whole book, that kind of thing. And on that note, I got a comment this morning on a community post. Somebody was curious about Redcoat, and I read Redcoat 15, which just came out, and I almost had a similar take on that, where it's like, oh, this one was just kind of filler. Well, no, it's issue 15, and a Redcoat volume is 7 issues, so volume 2 just wrapped up. This is the slow and, what's the right word, thoughtful start to volume 3, where things are peaceful, and that's what they're establishing at the beginning of this one, and then they're going to ratchet up the intensity of oh, okay, if that's the case, then we're good. My overall assessment of Redcoat is that out of the 3 unnamed war titles that they've put together, or characters so far, between Redcoat, Geiger, and Junkyard Joe, he's probably my least favorite of the 3. That isn't to say that he's bad. It's just that Geiger has been a surprisingly cool and interesting character to me, and Junkyard Joe is by a mile my favorite. But in case you can't tell, I like robots, so there's that. But Redcoat still has a lot to offer, and I've been regularly pleasantly surprised by how good that series has been. The first volume, just speaking broadly, it takes place in the late 1890s, and Simon is running around with a young Albert Einstein, whose sister saw a prophecy of America being destroyed, and Simon was at the center of it, so he sought him out to help him. And they have to fight against Benedict Arnold, who is also an immortal, granted immortality by magic. Simon got his condition by accidentally falling into an arcane ritual that was supposed to make Benjamin Franklin immortal. but he stumbled into it and he got the immortality instead, and now he's just traipsing along. The idea is that he's a scoundrel. He's a British redcoat, hence the name. But he eventually learns to fight for the American cause, and the magical curse on him is such that if America falls apart, he dies too. And he doesn't necessarily want to die, but he's as an immortal, he's got to find another reason to live. And there are other bits of lore and history that are explored here. I mentioned yesterday in my video about kind of popular comics and about how like the only two things that people generally know about American history are slavery and World War II. Well, obviously, with a character like this, you're going to get a lot of stuff about the Revolution, but they jump around into other events in history. Volume 2 was a little bit more kind of briefly episodic. He meets Annie Oakley, he meets Johnny Appleseed, he meets the Bloody Vendors of Kansas. It ended with an arc where he meets a time traveler simply known as the Northerner from an alternate timeline where, and this is where the slavery thing comes in, the South won the Civil War, and so slavery continued. I've read other alternate histories that imagined the South winning, but slavery still phased out eventually anyway because of industrialization. There are a bunch of alternate history scenarios that you can pursue on that front. That's less of the point. The Northerner features with a bunch of the other unnamed characters, and his arc ended with him running into Geiger at some future point in the series. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, my curiosity with Redcoat has been, okay, well, now that we know the Northerner and we've caught glimpses of the Redcoat, of Simon Pure, like hopping around in other series, we've gotten a brief glimpse of him meeting Junkyard Joe, and he also popped up at the end of The Blizzard, which was a standalone graphic novel. He's the character who's been around for hundreds of years, and he's eventually going to cross paths with and fully unite with Geiger and Junkyard Joe and others. I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen. My disappointment with issue 15 then is that it was teased that this was going to be a run-up to First Ghost, which is either a graphic novel or like another arc in the Redcoat series, and there really wasn't anything in this one. Issue 15 just takes place in 1909, and we're seeing that Simon has hung up his redcoat, and he's actually gotten married, and he's got a daughter and a son. And late at night, he stays up and he tries to read magical texts to figure out how to undo his curse, so that he can live a normal life with this family that he's found. But at the end of the book, Albert Einstein shows up, and it's been 10, 15 years since they ran into each other last. And Einstein warns him that Benedict Arnold is back. Like, okay, cool. Like, that's going to be the setup for Volume 3. I'm enjoying it, and there has been the odd slow issue here and there, but its own storyline is strong, and I love how it's tying into the other unnamed war books, and the artwork is fantastic. If I'm going to issue one single piece of criticism, and I've noticed this consistently throughout all the Redcoat books over the last year and change, I think Brian Hitch is the artist. He's weird about drawing faces. Every once in a while, you'll look at it like, okay, the eyes and the teeth are off here. Whether he's kind of zoomed in on it and you get a lot of detail, or whether he's panned back and you don't get so much, it's something that I've regularly noticed. I'm not sure what contributes to that, but the artwork on all of these unnamed books and all of these Ghost Machine books is just incredible. No matter what else I'm reading and what else I'm hyping, by a country mile, the artwork in the Ghost Machine books is better than anything and everything else. So, that's one of several reasons why this is my favorite publisher going on right now, and they're putting out my favorite books. So those are my thoughts on Redcoat. I think you guys will like it. You'll have to check out Geiger, Junkyard Joe, and that one graphic novel, Blizzard, to get the entire story. But maybe in 2026 I'll do like a lore video or something and get everybody caught up. Because Junkyard Joe, so far, it's just one volume. Geiger is about to hit its 4th volume. And, Redcoat is starting its 3rd. So yeah, those are all part of the Unnamed War. Ghost Machine has like four main kind of chronologies going, and Unnamed and Rook Exodus are the two that I'm interested in. Hyde Street is a horror series. I don't really get into horror, and then Hornsby and Halo, I got bored with that around like issue 7 or something. Um, it started to lose its way, and then I never really got into Rocket Fellers. I think I read issue 1. I'm like, yeah, no, this is kind of like a Disney Channel thing. It's not going to do it for me. Anyway, that's it. Drive safe. See you out there.